Hello and welcome. Tonight, political activities gather momentum across the country ahead of the 2023 general elections. People's Democratic Party in Ogun State flag off presidential and National Assembly campaigns in Abeokuta, the state capital. Supporters of the Labour Party hold rallies in Asaba and Calabar, South Nigeria, in support of its presidential candidate, Peter Obi, and his running mate, Dati Baba Ahmed. And All Progressives Congresswomen in Lagos hold rally in support of the presidential ambition of Chief Bola Tinubu and his running mate, Kashim Shettima.
On business news tonight, federal government announces plan to reopen the 180,000 barrels per day Trans-Niger pipeline shut for over 6 months.
On sports news tonight, Nigeria's Super Falcons arrive in the Japanese city of Kobe for Thursday Internationals friendly against 2011 world champions Japan.
And from Abuja, the nation's capital, proscribed Islamic movement in Nigeria asked courts to prosecute the Inspector General of Police for allegedly disobeying court orders over the release of six bodies of their members who died during a clash in July 2019.
And in international news from London, officials say the number of children killed during a crush at Indonesia's Kanjuruhan Stadium has risen to 32.
Indeed, political campaigns in the country have begun in earnest, and party bigwigs gathered in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, today for the flag-off of the People's Democratic Party presidential campaign. In attendance are leaders in the state and local government levels, former governors elected on the platform of the PDP, principal officers of the Alhaji Atiku Abubakar campaign team. The party leaders used the platform to mobilize support for all candidates running under the platform of the PDP in the 2023 general elections. The campaign season is here in full force. Party leaderships across the state and federal levels are already putting plans in place to woo more voters to their party ahead of the 2023 general elections.
If you love Atiku, let me hear you say.
Here in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, the People's Democratic Party gather at the party's secretariat to officially flag off the presidential campaign of their party's candidate, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, and at the same time welcome different support groups ahead of the elections. Supporters of the party in their large numbers, including 3 former governors and other members of the National Working Committee, join in expressing readiness to ensure victory for the party at all levels.
I want you to know, because we are close to Lagos, Lagos has no influence on us. The influence of Lagos is in Lagos. The influence is Ogun. Traditionally, Ogun State is PDP state. Lagos is not PDP state. So, Lagos has never influenced us and can never influence us. So, the presidential candidate of APC has no influence on us. We are all for Atiku.
Former Governor of Niger State, Muazu Babangida, former Governor of Kano State, Senator Ibrahim Shekarau, and former Governor of Adamawa State, Boni Haruna, make a case for the PDP presidential candidate, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar.
There is a need for unity. That is why we call him the unifier, because he's the only one who can go to any place and unite the people of that place. So we need unity. We need security. Only an Atiku presidency can reclaim our lands from Boko Haram, can reclaim our lands from bandits and ransom seekers, from IPOB and all other bad people.
We want to thank you, and we urge you to sustain this commitment, to sustain this patience, to sustain this perseverance up to the time of the election next year. And finally, to urge you to also extend PDP message to all nook and corners of Ogun State.
We are not taking your support for granted. I want to take this opportunity to once again appeal to you, just as you made a commitment before the primaries to support him and you delivered. We want to also appeal to you that now that the elections or the campaigns have started, we plead that this campaign should go to the wards, should go to the units.
PDP chieftain in the state, Mr. Ladi Adebutu, uses the opportunity to appeal to his people to support PDP at all levels.
We cannot take Yoruba land out of the mainstream of Nigeria. Yoruba land must remain, and I want to be quoted, in the mainstream of Nigeria. And PDP is the party that can take you to the mainstream of Nigeria. Timba slogan me, I mean, say Lado, one, because it is in one Nigeria, I, like that, able to believe. Gbogbo àwọn tí wọ́n lanu tó lanu anyhow yìí, kò sí tó lè dúró dogun nu wọn.
Now that the campaigns have commenced, the People's Democratic Party are confident of victory come 2023, but they are not leaving anything to chance as they continue to mobilize ahead of the general elections. And it's still a day of political rallies as Labour Party supporters continue to mobilize across the country in their numbers. In Delta and Cross River states, young Nigerians took to the streets to make a statement about their preparedness to orchestrate a change in leadership of the country.
It's a public holiday, but for the Labour Party supporters, it makes no difference as they make a walk through the streets campaigning for their candidates. In Asaba, Delta State, the crowd marched from the Interbell roundabout along Navy Sea Road, Asaba, through major roads in the state capital, singing songs indicating that the Labour Party is ready to take leadership of the country. The 1 million march is an affirmation of the support for the Obidate ticket.
The obedient movement are using their own time, their talents, and their resources in one word to save Nigeria. Okay? This is not just about Peter Obi. Peter Obi is seen as an epitome of what we want to do for Nigeria, what we feel Nigeria should be. So that's why the movement all over the country, all over the world is growing, because we are tired. We are tired of what Nigeria has been.
Cross River State, a similar rally took place across major streets in the state, with the youth declaring their full support for the Labour Party presidential flag bearer and his running mates. The youths described the candidates as people of proven integrity.
The Nigerian people coming out in different support groups want to take back their nation by force, not force by violence, but forced by their votes, that they are going to vote en masse and prove to those people that have stolen and mismanaged the hope of a common man over the years.
The Labour Party supporters have been blazing the trail in the last few weeks as they take to the streets in large numbers in Jos Plateau State, Benin City, Edo State, Uyo in Akwa Ibom State, and Abuja, the federal capital city, among others.
Meanwhile, Meanwhile, the vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Senator Dati Baba Ahmed, strongly believes that Nigeria has gone beyond religion and ethnicity and is now in the era of competence and capacity. He also believes that this will be the basis for Nigerians to choose the Labour Party in the 2023 presidential election. Senator Baba Ahmed says whoever thinks that Peter Obi is not welcomed in the north is making a huge mistake. He was speaking to our political correspondent, Terry Kumi.
What was the bidding done in 2015? Religion and ethnicity. Well, now, please wake up. It is the era of competence and capacity. And the people are feeling it. I assure you, no Christian regime will ever reduce the number of prayers Muslims are to pray or the number of days in Ramadan. Nobody will do that. Go and pray all you want. Fast all you want. We're happy. Pray for us. My Christian friends say, please pray for us. And vice versa. Nobody will touch your religion. And whoever thinks that Labour Party or Obedient Movement or Peter Obi as an individual now is not being welcomed in the North, they are making a huge mistake. I went to greet one of our elders, and this gentleman came in with all air of arrogance to say that, oh, you'll get a lot of experience in this contest. And I thanked him. And I said, the first advantage you give your opponent is to underestimate him. I want to be fully underestimated. I want Peter Obi to be fully underestimated by the so-called master politicians, the owners of resources, the owners and masters of structure. We're nothing. He's just a businessman. I'm just an educationist. I'll leave them, they'll go and get experience. Let's go.
For the full interview, do watch Political Paradigm on Tuesday at noon. And for the All Progressives Congress, women from different parts of Lagos State today staged a solidarity walk in support of the presidential candidate, Bola Tinubu, and his running mate, Kashim Shettima. The women, comprising artisans, market women, professionals, marched through the streets of Lagos Island and other locations in the state. In the meantime, the wife of the president, Mrs. Aisha Buhari, has been appointed to lead the Tinubu-Shettima Women Campaign Team for the actualization of the presidency in 2023. The APC Women Campaign Team comprises 1,200 strong members, which also comprises Senator Oluremi Tinubu, wife of the APC presidential candidate, and Hajia Nana Shettima as chairperson and co-chairperson of the Women's Campaign Team. In part two, after the break, we still have more on the political campaigns ahead of 2023. Plus, communities in Anambra State cry out for help over massive flooding. Schools take emergency break as homes and farmlands are submerged. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live from Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. People's Democratic Party in Ogun State flag off presidential and National Assembly campaigns in Abeokuta, the state capital. Supporters of Labour Party hold rallies in Asaba and Calabar, South Nigeria, in support of its presidential candidates Peter Obi and his running mate Dati Baba Ahmed. And All Progressives Congress women in Lagos hold rally in support of presidential ambition of Chief Bola Tinubu and his running mate Kashim Shettima. And officials say a number of children killed during a crash at Indonesia's Kanjuruhan Stadium rises to 32. It's yet another rally, but this time for the presidential flag bearer of the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, Rabiu Kwankwaso, who was in Taraba State earlier today, to woo supporters to vote for him. The presidential hopeful, who says he will run an all-inclusive government, explains that the devaluation of the naira must be reversed in the coming years to engender the required improvement in the nation's economy. The supporters believe that their candidate has the capacity to make the change required for a better country.
We have what it takes to educate our younger ones and, of course, to create job opportunities for everybody. Yesterday and many other days when I was in the field, I will feel very angry seeing these young men and women who are supporting us across the country, jobless. Many of them are into drugs, and nobody cares about that. And as we are coming, we all know that so many people are in the hands of bandits today. And now it's rainy season. In the bush where there is no roof on their heads, there is no good food, nothing. And we have seen what is happening across the country. Hardly can anybody even remember, talk less of praying for them or having the capacity to go and rescue them. So there is so much to be done under our circumstance today in the country, but we see all those things as the challenge of the moment. And I believe we are capable, we are strong enough to handle the challenges in this country.
Now to our special review of the different sectors as Nigeria turns 62. Tonight we'll begin this series with security. Tackling insecurity in Nigeria is one of the promises President Muhammadu Buhari made to Nigerians on his assumption of office May 29, 2015. However, 7 years down the line, how has his administration fared? Our correspondent Emperor Simon reports.
That sound of terror ripped off peace in the northeast for several years prior to 2015. And amidst that, President Muhammadu Buhari took over the mantle of leadership as Nigeria's president, promising to take on the issue headlong.
Victory cannot be achieved by building the command and control center in Abuja. The command center will be relocated to Maiduguri and remain until Boko Haram is completely subdued.
While those words ignited hope in the minds of many Nigerians, attack by the Boko Haram insurgents in the northeast went unabated, with hundreds of innocent Nigerians killed, including over 40 peasant farmers murdered in Koshebe town in Borno State in 2020. Clashes between farmers and herders, banditry and kidnapping for ransom have also emerged as new forms of criminality under the Buhari government, leading to huge casualties and displacement of people across states in the north central and northwest.
By 2015, we are contending with Boko Haram alone in the northeast. But when the heat was turned on the terrorists in the northeast, they spread to north central, propagating the same ideas of Boko Haram.
The roads have become nightmares and the railway is under attack, with some of the passengers abducted from a train along the Abuja-Kaduna rail still in captivity. Available statistics shows at least 17,158 fatalities have been recorded as a result of insecurity between January 2021 and September 24, 2022, while 1,821 people were injured and 9,585 people were abducted in 630 local government areas across the country.
Our leaders are not doing anything. They have failed us.
Another area of concern is the mass abduction of school children in the last 7 years. At least 5 incidences have been recorded under the administration, and according to the United Nations Children Emergency Fund, UNICEF, more than 1,000 school students have been abducted, with over 600 schools shut down as a result of insecurity. Although the government has secured the release of most of the victims, Leah Sharibu, one of the girls abducted from a school in Dapchi in Yobe State, is still in captivity 4 years after, while the remaining Chibok school girls who were abducted in 2014 are yet to be released.
The entire northern half of the country are working to a situation where a significant portion of public schools are either shut down, or even where they're not shut down, the ability to run regular educational classes is almost impossible as a result of insecurity.
However, the Buhari's government has increased funding for security from 968 billion naira in 2015 to over 2.4 trillion naira in 2022.
One of the challenges that has befuddled the Nigerian security sector is the lack of equipment. So if you look at the armed forces as an example, the Buhari administration has invested heavily on the procurement of equipment, both for the army, the Air Force, and then the Navy.
Nevertheless, it appears security operatives, including the military, are gaining some victory over insecurity in Nigeria recently. An analysis of the bi-weekly report by the Defense Headquarters between January and September 2022 shows at least 5,000 terrorists and bandits have been neutralized, over 10,000 others arrested, and more than 20,000 terrorists and their families have surrendered to troops in various operations.
The air component of Operation Hadarin K, while acting on credible intelligence, conducted air interdiction at Somalia in Sambisa Forest and bombarded a terrorist critical facility.
I speak.
President Muhammadu Buhari is also not losing hope of fixing the security challenges in the country, as stated in his last Independence Day address to Nigerians as head of state.
I share the pains Nigerians are going through, and I assure you that your resilience and patience will not be in vain as this administration continues to reposition as well as strengthen the security agencies to enable them to deal with all forms of security challenges.
By February 2023, Nigerians will be heading to the polls, and one area the electorate must not undermine in their engagement with those seeking to lead the country is their ability to deal decisively with the issues of insecurity in Nigeria. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
For more on addressing the challenge of insecurity, Manu Yagda, Navy Commander retired, and Chairman Danboy Conflict and Security Consultancy Services, DACODEC, joins me now on the news at 10. Welcome to the news.
I'm honored to be present. Thank you very much.
Let's begin. What's your overall assessment of the Buhari-led government in the area of security?
Well, in looking at what this administration has done about the security issue of this country, it depends on which angle one looks at it. This administration, on one hand, has tried very well, but at the same time, on the other hand, there are some lapses. Now, if you look at the beautiful things that this administration has done, everybody knows. By 2015, movement alone within Abuja is very difficult. You cannot pass in front of defense headquarters. You cannot pass in front of central bank. You cannot pass in front of DSS or military. In fact, all military formations and police have been barricaded. At the same time, you remember that by 2015, everybody knows what happened on the 25th of April, 26th of April at the police headquarters, and then on the 16th of August at the United Nations, all in 2011. And then what happened at Nyanya on the 14th of April 2014 within Abuja. But with the coming of this administration, you discover that gradually all these problems melted away. Today, you can pass in front of any KP in Abuja without any problem. This is an achievement. Secondly, we discovered that at 2015, when somebody is moving from Abuja, for instance, to Jos, it will take nothing less than 4 to 5 hours because of too many checkpoints with long queues being manned by hard-looking soldiers. But gradually, with the coming of this administration, all those obstacles have been cleared. Now going to the Northeast. If you go to the Northeast, everybody knows that this administration has done very well in curtailing Boko Haram.
So Yagda, you've used about 2 minutes to talk about the pluses for this government. But in terms of what we're seeing now, in terms of the fears, people traveling by road, in terms of, you know, those who are displaced, who are crying out, what in your assessment is going on? And this is also seeing as we've had more funding allotted to securing the country than as at 2015. Briefly, because we're running out of time.
I have not get you very well, but can you please repeat, because the echo is disturbing my...
You've talked about the pluses for this government, but funding has increased in security since 2015, and there is a reason for this. We're asking about those who are afraid to travel by road, by train. What are your thoughts on the solutions and the way forward to curbing insecurity in Nigeria, briefly?
Well, even though I have not heard it very well, but coming to the issue of the security situation in this country, as I was saying earlier, when you look at one side, on the other side, if you look at this administration, when this administration came in, the issue of banditry, the issue of kidnapping, the issue of farmers' herders clash, the issue of cattle wrestling, they were there, but at the minimal level. But gradually, I don't know what actually happened, but you discover that all these things that I've mentioned, they have now transformed from minor skirmishes to monster, which makes it very difficult, especially in the Northwest. Everybody knows that today, one of the problems we have is the issue of kidnapping in the Northwest, the issue of banditry in the Northwest. Now, as I want to say, as I was saying initially, all these things that I'm mentioning, when this administration came in, they were there, but they were there at a minimal level. But this administration allowed them to grow into a monstrous level that is very difficult to handle. That is why today, every citizen of this country is seriously worried about the security situation in this country. Nobody is safe. In fact, kidnappers these days, they don't even wait for you in the bush, but they are even entering the cities and towns to kidnap. It is that bad. Now coming to the issue of the banditry, which we are talking about, which is very prevalent in the Northwest. I'm very quick to say that to make sure that this issue of banditry is tackled, I think our best advice can go to the next administration. Yes, 7 months to the end of this administration is okay. But most of the things that if another administration comes in and they meet the same setup of our security architecture, then I bet you this banditry is not going to end.
I wish we had.
Our advice now is.
I really wish we had more time with you on this discussion. We'd like to appreciate you for joining us on the News at 10. Manu Yakda is a Navy commander, retired, also chairman of Damboy Conflicts and Security Consultancy Services. We appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.
Coming up on the News at 10, the federal government announces plans to reopen the 180,000 barrels per day Trans-Niger pipeline, which has been closed for over 6 months. That's on Business News. To join us again. Welcome back. We're off to our Abuja studios where Gloria Muzike is standing by with more stories. Hi, Gloria.
Hello, Millicent. Good to see you. Here in Abuja, the Academic Forum of the Proscribed Islamic Movement of Nigeria is asking the Inspector General of Police and the Chief Medical Director of the National Hospital Abuja to release the remains of 6 of their members who died when the police clashed with the group in Abuja on July 22, 2019. The group explains that Justice Taiwo of the Federal High Court Abuja had ordered the police chief on June 29, 2020 to release the bodies. The Proscribed Islamic group believe that the Inspector General of Police is complicit and must be made to face the law, since he allegedly refused to obey the order of the court. The group argues that no one should be above the law, as the nation's constitution confers on the courts the authority to compel groups or individuals to obey the law of the land by making pronouncements in the form of judgments. Meanwhile, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, says it has recovered over 13 million pills of tramadol worth over 8 billion naira in street value from one of the mansions allegedly belonging to one Ugochukwu Chukwudibia in Victoria Garden City in the Lekki area of Lagos. Ugochukwu's arrest comes 2 months after the NDLEA uncovered a methamphetamine laboratory said to belong to Chris Nzewi, who was arrested on July the 30th, alongside a chemist, Sunday Uka, who allegedly cooked the crystal meth, also called Mpuru Miri in Igbo. In a statement, the NDLEA spokesperson, Femi Babafemi, explains that before his arrest, Ugochukwu, who hails from Ihiala local government area of Anambra State, had been on the agency's watch list as one of those behind a tramadol drug cartel in Nigeria. The chairman and chief executive, NDLEA, retired Brigadier General Mohammed Uba Marwa, has commended the operatives involved in the latest drug bust, vowing that the agency will work with Nigerians to save citizens from the drug scourge. Now, finding solutions to the nation's challenges is the concern of all. The Household of God Church in Ikeja highlighted this message as it commemorated the nation's 62nd independence anniversary in a service where members prayed for a better Nigeria. Senior pastor of the Household of God Church International Ministries, a Pentecostal congregation in Lagos, in his sermon says Nigeria deserves a new leadership that will champion national growth and development in the coming years.
As Nigeria celebrates its 62nd anniversary, Nigerians are eager to see quantum change in the state of the nation. In commemoration of Nigeria's independence, worshippers assemble at the Household of God Church, Lagos, to worship, pray, and thank God for sustaining the nation. Additionally, the church put up a brief drama to depict the dynamic features of the country and encourage citizens to seek unity.
Join the conversation. We are one family. One
The lesson of the day is derived from Genesis chapter 12 verse 1 to 5, where Pastor Chris Okotie sounds the call for God's army to reunite and salvage the nation from turmoil.
Get out of your coach and from your kindred and from your father's house. You say, Pastor Chris, it's not asking us to do the same to get out of Zion. But the difference is that it's not asking you to get out from a location, it's asking you to get out from a mindset. But it's something that I'm going to show you, and the only way you can understand it and the only way you can receive it is by refusing to be in that old mood.
For the lead pastor, it is important that Nigerians should have a change of heart to ensure that Nigeria is able to maximize its resources and bring positive results for Nigerians.
If we desire to break the monotony of the vicious circle of recycled leadership, then the only way forward is that which stands conspicuously before us, arrayed in the attire of an interim government. Anything else, to my mind, is tantamount to some mindless illogicality and clueless ineptitude.
Many see the 2023 general elections as a turning point, while for others, the dream may seem far-fetched. Some other Nigerians remain positive, trusting in the supernatural to turn things around in the country.
Well, that's it from the nation's capital. It's over now to you, Millicent.
Thanks, Gloria. And we go over to Anambra State. When the Nigeria Hydrological Service Agency warned earlier in the year of massive flooding along the coastal states, little did residents of Anambra imagine the extent of flooding that has now hit it. And most affected is Anambra West local government area. The water level has risen following the recent downpour and opening of the Lagdo Dam in Cameroon. Residents of the communities in the local government area are now relocating to safer zones. Business is next. Year's Anne Waldo.
Thank you, Millicent. Hello and welcome to Business News. The federal government says that it is set to reopen the Trans-Niger pipeline, the country's major infrastructure for crude oil export, which has been shut now for over 6 months. The group's general manager of National Petroleum Investment Management Services, Mr. Bala Wunti, made this known at a visit to Nampims in the pipeline site. The pipeline has been closed since mid-June due to vandalism and theft of oil export facility, stalling transportation of 180,000 barrels per day of crude via that channel. Infrastructure is also critical for continuous domestic power generation and liquefied gas exports. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission has renewed the federal government's bid for the gas flare commercialization program. In a statement, the NUPRC Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Gbenga Komolafe, says the program is one of the strategic initiatives of the federal government to drive attainment of zero routine gas flaring by 2035 and net zero emissions by 2060 in the country. Mr. Komolafe adds that the Commission is committed to steer this initiative to a successful conclusion in an accelerated manner. Still in the oil and gas sector, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies are set to hold its next meeting this week. That meeting will take place in Vienna on October the 5th. It's coming the first physical meeting since 2020. The COVID-19 outbreak. It's coming against the backdrop of falling oil prices and months of severe market volatility. Sources say OPEC Plus will consider an oil output cut of more than 1 million barrels per day at that meeting, which will be the biggest move yet since the COVID-19 pandemic to address oil market weakness. The oil producers' cartel has refused to raise output to lower oil prices despite pressure from major consumers, including the United States, to help global economy. And one of Nigeria's leading electricity power plants, Gregu Power PLC, is set to list on the main board of the Nigerian Exchange Limited. According to a statement released on the stock exchange's website, 2.5 billion ordinary shares of 50 kobo each at 100 naira per share on the exchange will be listed by introduction. Gregu Power will be the first electricity company, generation, transmission or distribution that will be listed on the exchange in Nigeria's history. And talking about the Nigerian Exchange Limited, it has lifted the suspension placed on the trading of Royal Exchange's shares. According to a statement released by the NGX, the lifting of the suspension on September the 27th is coming after the company filed its audited financial statement for the year ended December the 31st, 2021, and unaudited financial statements for the quarters ended March the 31st and June the 30th, 2022. Royal Exchange is one of the 9 listed companies that were suspended on July the 1st. The shares of global investment bank Credit Suisse plunged nearly 10% in Europe's morning session. And that's after Financial Times reported the Swiss bank's executives are in talks with major investors to help reassure them of its financial health. And this is coming amid rising concerns about Swiss lenders' liquidity, capital position, as well as restructuring plans due to come with third-quarter results at the end of October. The financial services giant's euro-denominated bonds dropped to record lows, with the Swiss bank's longer-dated bonds suffering the sharpest decline. In July this year, Credit Suisse also announced its second biggest strategy review in a year and replaced its CEO, bringing in restructuring experts to scale back investment banking and cuts more than $1 billion in costs. And that's Business News Tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Millicent.
Thank you, Anne. And to international stories, the Indonesian National Police Chief says as of Sunday, 125 people were confirmed dead, including children from the stampede, with more than 320 others injured. According to the Football Association of Indonesia, FIFA has requested a report and has sent a team to Malanga for investigation. Here's Simon Pusa with more on this and other international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Officials say the number of children killed during a crush at Indonesia's Kanjuruhan Stadium has risen to 32. Authorities say the youngest victim of Saturday's disaster, in which 125 people lost their lives, was just 3 years old. More than 320 other people were injured as supporters were trampled on and suffocated in crushes. Arema Soccer Club apologized to victims of the deadly stadium stampede, with its president stating he was ready to take full responsibility for the events. We are ready to give compensation, anything, to the victims, even though anything we do cannot bring back the victims, said Gilang Widya Pramana, who paused briefly during the news conference to wipe away tears. On Sunday, Pope Francis prayed for the victims of the crush. Brazil's election is going into a second round in which left-winger Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva will face far-right incumbent Jair Bolsonaro. With almost all the votes counted, Lula had won 48% against Bolsonaro's 43%, a much closer result than opinion polls had suggested. But Lula fell short of the more than 50% of valid votes needed to prevent a new runoff. Voters now have 4 weeks to decide which of the two should lead Brazil. A delegation from the West African regional body ECOWAS is due to arrive in Burkina Faso later to try to help restore calm following the country's second coup this year. On Sunday, the military leader who had been in power for 8 months formally resigned, 2 days after being toppled by a rival faction.
La suspension de la Constitution.
ECOWAS has called on the new military leadership, led by Captain Ibrahim Traoré, to respect an earlier agreement to hold elections by July 2024. Burkina Faso has seen a dramatic increase in attacks by jihadist groups. The growing insecurity has played a key role in both coups. After seizing power, Captain Traoré said the country faced an emergency in every sector, including defence. The UK government is abandoning its plan to abolish the top rate of income tax for the highest earners following a growing backlash. Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng said it is clear that the abolition of the 45p tax rate has become a distraction, adding, "We get it and we have listened." The U-turn comes after several Tory MPs voiced their opposition to the plan, announced just 10 days ago in the mini-budget.
We just talk to people, we listen to people, I get it. We not only talked to people, we saw people's reactions, we were talking to constituents, we were talking to a whole range of stakeholders, and we felt that the 45p issue, the 45p rate, was drowning out a strong package of intervention on energy, a strong package of intervention on tax cuts for people generally, and we decided not to proceed with getting rid of the 45p rate.
The Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine has gone to Sweden's Svante Pääbo for his work on human evolution. The prize committee said he achieved the seemingly impossible task of cracking the genetic code of one of our extinct relatives, Neanderthals. He also discovered the previously unknown relative, Denisovans,
for his discoveries concerning the genomes of extinct hominins and human evolution.
His much-lauded work helped explore our own evolutionary history and how humans spread around the planet.
Untersucht diese Verbindungen im Erbgut mit unseren nächsten Verwandten.
The Swedish geneticist's work answers questions such as where do we come from and what allowed Homo sapiens to succeed while our relatives went extinct. And finally, Kim Kardashian has been charged by the US Securities and Exchange Commission for advertising Ethereum Max on her Instagram page. The reality TV star had received $250,000 for advertising the cryptocurrency without disclosing she had been paid to do so. Ms. Kardashian has agreed to pay $1.26 million in penalties. She has also agreed not to promote any crypto asset securities for 3 years. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon. Here, and welcome to Sports News, where Nigeria's Super Falcons have arrived in the Japanese city of Kobe for Thursday's international friendly against the 2011 world champions, Japan. Now, the delegation which left the country on Friday includes players from the under-20 national team of Flourish, Sebastian, Deborah Abiodun, Esther Onyenezide and Jumoke Alani. Both teams have clashed only once at competitive level at the 2004 Olympics, where the Nadeshiko pipped the Falcons by a goal to nil. Well, the friendly game is part of preparations for the FIFA Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand next year. In the English Premier League, Leicester City have won their first game of the season with an emphatic 4-0 thrashing of Nottingham Forest that takes them off the bottom of the Premier League table. Two first half goals from James Maddison, either side of Harvey Barnes' curled effort, lifted the gloom that has surrounded Leicester's season. Well, Patson Daka capped it all by coming off the bench to score with a deft flick in the second half. The Tigers' small forward Jordan Wara says he wants to keep doing the little stuff that will get him more playing time after scoring 21 points for the Milwaukee Bucks in their pre-season opener. Wara shot 7 for 15 from the field while grabbing 8 rebounds in 28 minutes in Milwaukee's 107-102 loss to the Memphis Grizzlies. The 24-year-old, who recently signed a 2-year extension, played 62 games last season and made 13 starts.
Any chance I get to play, I'm happy with that. So whether it's beginning game, end of game, middle of the game, whenever I'm on the court, I'm happy. So for me, the offense is going to be there. In practice, I'm just worried about the effort on the other end. Like I said, I don't know, you guys were around when I said that kind of hit me this summer, everything people's been telling me. And it's not because I can't do it. I can do it. I just have to have that effort and, do it every day so I can be on the floor, because I know I'm somebody, I can help the team win. I just got to do the little things to be on the floor, and I'm trying to honestly, that's all I'm focusing on every day, the little stuff. At this point, I'm not even, like I said, worried about offense. As a basketball player, how the player I am, you know, that's going to come. It's just worried about the other end, effort, and doing the little stuff like you said, diving on the floor.
And that sports news is back to you, Millicent, for the wrap.
Thank you, Tunde. And the main news again. Today, political activities gathered momentum across the country ahead of the 2023 general elections. People's Democratic Party Ogun State chapter flagged off its presidential and National Assembly campaigns in Abeokuta, the state capital. Also today, rallies continued for Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi as APC women in Lagos rallied support for APC presidential candidate Chief Bola Tinubu and his running mate Kashim Shettima. And that's news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night. Stay safe.